Hello, everyone. I'm Noyus, and I'm white. Or at least this is how the majority of the continent sees me. Let me explain. I am African biracial. My mom is from Lithuania, she's white, and my dad is from Benin, West Africa. He's black. And because of these two different sides, I do identify as African biracial. However, identifying and feeling like it is not the same. And that is the case for me. Or I will let myself speak for the majority of African biracials, the case for us. From my perspective, even though my African side is seen more, I never really felt connected to it up until last year. And it seems strange, doesn't it? How me, a light-skinned person, does not know his African roots. The situation is simple. I grew up in Europe. 14 years of my life, I spent living in Lithuania, around my white family, white friends, white people. And it was normal to me. I knew Africans exist, but I never felt the need to connect with them, to feel them. And maybe it was because, Benin is so far from Lithuania geographically and culturally, and spending 14 years in Lithuania, I felt fully Lithuanian. However, my experience changed 1.5 years ago when I got accepted into UWC, and not some UWC, the one in Tanzania. And it was my first real experience when I actually got to live in Africa. And many people get accepted to UWC, yes, so I was the one of them. And coming from Lithuania, from National Committee, from Europe, many people expected me to be white. When they would ask me, where am I from? I would respond, I'm from Lithuania. And then they would have that strange, confused face. And I felt the need to add, oh, but I'm half Beninese. And then they would be, oh, now it makes sense. And I know they did not mean anything wrong, but it was just hurt. Why it cannot make sense that I'm just Lithuanian? Or in Benin. I remember me and my grandma, we went to market to shop. And the seller, once he saw me, he increased prices. And my grandma was confused. She was like, but he's Beninese, why are you offering so high? But the seller did not see that I'm Beninese. I look lighter than him. I look like a tourist to him. And yeah, coming to Tanzania, I got exposed to much more diversity, meeting people from all over the world, and eventually living around black Africans. That was unusual to me because in Lithuania, I knew maybe 4 of them, and the 4 people I knew were actually African biracials. And one of them was my brother. 4 people. 4 people I knew before coming to Tanzania. Do you know the movie Madagascar? Yes, there's 4 main characters, Alex, Martin, Gloria, Melman. They're originally from Africa, but they grew up in US. They relate to it, it's their environment. And when they go to Madagascar, to Africa in the movie, they find it more or less challenging to fit in. And of course, it's because of the difference in behavior they developed over the years. And I think that's what happened to me. I'm coming to Tanzania, I met many people who look not the same, but more similar to me. And I was really excited to learn about African culture, history, food, everything. That was my first experience here. But then, I forgot one thing. I may look like an African. I do not behave like one. I'm European. And that was when my identity crisis began. Because the truth is, people are still in groups culturally. And despite our school's diversity, I did not fit into the black group. I had a totally different childhood with different people in different places. And it's natural, I'm not blaming anyone, but there was one thing which really shocked me. And it's my own personal experience, it could happen vice versa somewhere else. Black Africans were the ones who cared about my race more. The ones who constantly remind me, oh, but you did not grow up here. While my white friends were much more comfortable with the concept of mixed European. But you know who was also interesting? The same people who told me, you're not African enough, They did not know where Benin was. And I quote, yeah, but usually Saharan Africans are not black. Benin is a sub-Saharan country. Majority of people in Benin are black. I know I should blame their education system, but how can you determine the level of how much of an African person is when you don't even know the countries in your own continent? But yeah, I feel I moved too far from the topic. Life in Tanzania gave me new insights. I understood that I cannot ignore my black side. My dad's black. My family lives here. But also my mom's white. My mother tongue is Lithuanian. I spent majority of my life there. And I got confused. How should I act? Who am I? Because so many people judged me for acting white that I felt the need to act black. And it can really mess up with your mind. I never even thought of myself as acting white until I came to Tanzania. Or maybe I just wanted to prove that I am African. Because from what I've learned is that just because you are half black does not mean you are African. And maybe till this day, I still feel more connected to my white side just because I have the culture of it. I have the culture of European. And yeah, this really divided me because I am too black in Europe, and I'm not black enough in Africa. How should I act? But then it brings me to reference one concept, double consciousness. W.B. Du Bois, he argued that African Americans, they live with double consciousness because they have to be self-aware, and they also have to be aware how white people are going to perceive them. And I think this is what can be applied also to biracial people. You know, we have to be self-aware, but also we have to be aware how white people are going to perceive us and how black people are going to perceive us. And there are many examples from my own and my friends' lives where we have to experience the duality of it. For example, each time I do braids, I feel like I'm not supposed to do them. I feel guilty, I feel uncomfortable. And it doesn't make sense. I'm half black. But that's how I feel. Certain comments and views are acceptable to one side and outrageous to another. We have to change vocabulary and use code switching based on the group we are with. The same can be said about beauty standards. Fitting one means completely compromising the other. We need to make sure that we're never too white or too black, because even then, our own people can be racist to us. But now I said our own people, and I'm not really sure what it meant. Yeah. But then looking also from, talking about our own people, yeah, Europe, I grew up in Europe. Even in Europe, I don't feel like at home anymore. Last December, I came back home, Lithuania, see my family, my country, my friends. So believe me, when I went to shopping mall, and the cashier started speaking with me in English. Hello, they would say, after 6 months of not speaking Lithuanian in Tanzania. And then I understood that at the place where I consider home, where it's supposed to be my safe space, people there, they don't consider me as their own. It was the first time in my 17 years of my life when I truly thought about it. And maybe it was because, I grew up, I am growing older, or maybe because, I had this experience of being outside of European bubble. But coming back to, perception of white and black, being perceived by both sides, yes, it creates the self-doubt. Why am I supposed to choose? Why have to select which one I'm going to be in order to fit? Even though I'll never fit the way I would like to. And what for you seems those little things like hair, clothes, accent. For us, it's a huge chain of stress going through each day. But then maybe we should ask ourselves, why things have to be categorized? Black or white, for example. And this can apply to many more topics, not only talking about race. But maybe this is where the beauty of the world comes in. In life, you always learn. We always learn. And maybe this is one of the times where we humans are still learning. Learning to understand, accept, connect. Biracial people exist. I exist. And I'm learning as well. And there are some things I believe we learn gradually, together. Don't judge. Don't judge mixed, biracial, global people for the way they are. We are not guilty that we were born into something we didn't choose. And I really believe that one day the world is not going to be only this or only that. Biracial people are not going to be too white or too black. We're going to be simply biracial, not something in between. Celebrate. The world is huge, and that we can witness races, ethnicities, cultures mixing. It's beautiful. It is really beautiful. And guide us. Instead of rejecting us, teach us. Help us embrace the best of both. And support us with that. Because having a strong and trusting support system is extremely important. After all, coming to Tanzania, it actually let me go into understanding my duality deeper. I met more biracial people who experience the same things I do. And it let me connect with both of my sides, black and white, again, from the start. I don't feel the need to act more European in Europe. I don't feel the need to act more black in Africa. I just am. I am biracial. We live in 21st century where many of you, I believe, also have some sort of connection with, being mixed. Maybe your parents come up from different religions, your friends are of different cultures. Let's embrace it. Let's be open and let's accept ourselves the way we are. And also support those who are struggling to do so. Do not let social norms dictate who you are and who you're not. Because at the end, despite all our differences, we all are humans. Thank you.